Next, let's look at the average function. The average function usually tells us the middle or the midpoint of a particular range of values. And while the sum function tells us the total, average tells us what is typical. It adds all the values together and then it divides it by the total number of values. The syntax for average is equal to average, then the parentheses, and the range of values you want to add your average to. Suppose your manager asks you, what is our average sales from the year 2020 to 2025? Instead of calculating that manually, we can simply use the average function. This is useful because average helps us to understand the performance trends and also establishes benchmarks for businesses. Businesses often use the average function to measure average sales, average customer spend, average attendance, and average employee performance. And as an analyst, average helps you to understand the centerpiece or the center point of our data. Let's look at how the average function works. We've established that the average function helps us to find the center point of our data, helps us to spot trends and the like. So we have a data for sales from the year 2020 to the year 2025. And we want to find the average sales in January from January 2020 all the way to January 2025. So you type the equal to and then you type your average function. And while you're typing, you will notice this dialog box appears. It's called Excel's IntelliSense. Okay, it just helps you to auto-complete the function that you're writing. The function we want to complete is the average. So we just double click that and then we see the average. And all we need to do is include the range of cells for which we want to find the average. So we want to find the average from cell C3 all the way to H3. We close our brackets and we hit the enter. And we are now able to find the average. Okay, so when we notice from the year 2020, the sales in January of each year from 2020 to 2025, the average for that sale is 3.2 million. And that's one way to use the average function. Another way that you can call the average function we've already discussed is using your insert function dialog box. So you just click on this and then we have the dialog box for the insert function. Come over and you select average and you would be asked what is the cell range that you want to find the average for. Of course, we want to find the average from C4 all the way to H4. And then we hit enter. And we are given the average sales for the month of February from 2020 to 2025. Another way to do that we have discussed is to use the insert function button, which is the same thing as the insert function button close to the formula bar. So you just click on the insert function button and the insert function dialog box would appear. You use your average and for March, the cell would be C5 to the range of H5. And then we hit enter and we are given the average for March. We can also use the auto sum button. Okay, so you could use the auto sum button. You just come to this arrow down and you click the arrow down dialog box and you can use the average. So instead of using auto sum, we are trying to calculate the average. So when you hit that, it already gives you the average function. All you now need to do is come in here and edit the range of cells. And the range of cells is C6 to H6. And you hit enter. And you're able to do that. Now, rather than going and just finding it manually, you remember that we talked about our absolute and relative referencing, okay? Where you are able to just use your flash handle and you click and you drag the formula, you see that that is going to appear. So instead of now coming here and just calculating the averages for each of the months, just use your auto flash, or you could just come here, and when that auto flash symbol appears, you can either click and drag, or you can just double click it, and then it gives you everything. That's how we use the function average in Excel.